Hi, everybody. We're going to talk about historical thinking and sourcing documents. You are going to have to be able to identify a source's point of view, purpose, historical situation, context, and/or audience, and then explain the significance of those things. So we're going to start with contextualization. The first thing you do with any primary source document is you look at the sourcing information. Don't ignore it. Don't move on. You can get so much information just from that sourcing information. For example, for this photograph, this is a picture of the Children's Crusade in Birmingham in 1963. I know that the Birmingham Children's Crusade was launched because young Black people were fed up with segregation in their city. So, looking at that, we can move on and start to look at our analysis tool, taking it apart, analysis. We're going to use the acronym SCAPT. Weird, I know. Summary, context, audience, purpose, point of view, and tone. Those are the three analytical levels that we will take a document apart with. So we're going to start with just defining this. SCAPT, the S is the summary. What's the document say? What's it tell you about the time period? C, this is your big C, context. We're going to talk about context in just a minute. What are the circumstances surrounding the creation of the document? A is the audience. Who's the intended audience? P is the point of view. Who is the speaker? What's the speaker's bias? What position or perspective is he or she writing from? The other P is purpose. What is the intent behind the document? What is their purpose? What action does the author want the audience to take? And then tone. What is the emotional tone of the document? Some documents do not have tone, though, but diaries, letters, those sorts of things do. So what language is being used to convey that tone? So first off, you need to read a document thoroughly. Look at the date, when it was created, and what else was going on at the time. Who created it? Why was it created? And what does it tell us about the time of the events? When we talk about context, we're connecting historical events and processes to specific circumstances of time and place. So remember, we've talked about time and space are super important. So when you look at context, you're looking at the historical events that led up to it in that time period, as well as causes of an event. When did it happen? What time period is it in? What are the characteristics of that time period? What led to it? Who was involved? Why were they involved? And then you're looking at the geography of that event. Where in the world did it take place? This can be a specific location or a relative location compared to other places around it. It may be influenced by geography and topography and climate. So where did it happen? What are the geographical features? Is it in a political region? What regions are nearby? So you've got to look at time and space for context. Big C context. This is looking zoomed out. What's going on in the world in relation to the event? Little c context is zoomed in closer to the event, is more localized and closer in time to the event. So you may be asked to look at both big C, historical circumstances and geography, or little c, historical circumstances and geography when analyzing a document. A lot of times we like to think of it this way, as a circle or a set of circles, the events in the middle, you have little c context. It's kind of like the ripples in a pond. How far out do we go where we feel the impacts of that history and that geography? Then you need to connect those events to circumstances, and we're going to practice that with an MLK letter. And it's specifically the MLK's letter from a Birmingham jail. MLK was arrested in April of 1963 because he and others were protesting the treatments of Blacks in the South and just segregation in general. His letter actually details the conditions in Birmingham, Alabama, and the rest of America, and the nonviolent protests that were happening as a result of the civil rights movement were being met with like violent retaliation and pushback by other citizens and police departments, etc. So when we look at this, we need to put 1963 in context, right? So what's happening? So violence is breaking out among peaceful protests. You have the Children's Crusade. Kids walked out of school. And on national television, while they are peacefully protesting, walking out of their schools, the local Birmingham police unleashed fire hoses and police dogs on these children. Additionally, someone engaged in a terrorist act by bombing the 16th Street Baptist Church. And that day when that church was bombed, 4 little girls were having Sunday school down in the basement and they all died. So there's all of this happening that's swirling around this event of 1963 and Martin Luther King's arrest. You're going to watch this video in a little bit. We're going to skip it for now to see what was happening in the South at the time. So now you're going to go practice. Using your understanding of context, I want you to complete the contextualization assignment. You will be assessed on thinking critically and analyzing a range of sources in terms of context, origin, audience, purpose, point of view, and recognizing different perspectives and implications. So now go do it and practice that skill.